Hi guys, I'm back with part 2 of my ScrapChat for the month of May, and I have a whole bunch of questions here. So, as I film this one, the other one is actually re-uploading. I filmed the other one last week / this week. I don't know, my weeks are all blurring together. And I uploaded it and was ready to make it live, and I'm actually glad that I forgot to click like just the button that makes it public instead of private, because it had like a big section in it that was all like green and weird. So I re-uploaded it, and it's just like I'm reprocessing it right now, and so that'll come up while I'm filming this. So you should, let's cross our fingers and hope that I get this done today. You should get 2 scrap chats today, a part 1 and a part 2, and I'm very unlikely to finish all of the questions even in this part 2. So you'll probably get another part 3 at some point very, very soon. So I'm going to pick up where I left off, which is on Sandy's question. Sandy says, I'm going to hold it up like this so you don't have to look at the top of my head. Sandy says, I'm on my 4th round of chemo and I haven't scrapped anything in 4+ months. I miss it so, but I don't seem to have the oomph to do it. Any hints on scrapping when life gives you serious health curveballs? Can you guys hear that? You might be able to see it. Go ahead, do it again so I can show them. Oh, you guys missed it. She jumps and claws onto the side of the wood. She jumps and claws onto the side of this and hangs there when she wants to get into my room. I thought I would be able to catch it for you guys. I think I've posted it on Instagram other times when she's done that. So, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear that you're going through such a difficult time with your health, Sandy. I know that I've been aware of your battle with cancer for a while, and I'm rooting for you all along and sending you lots of healthy vibes and strong vibes. I have no idea what it feels like to go through chemo or to have cancer, but I have watched my dad fight with cancer, and so I do understand the toll that it takes, and to a much lesser extent, I do understand having health problems that affect your energy level, because for the past 3 months since the beginning of March, I myself have been having some health problems that definitely, and I mean, it's nowhere near the same toll on my body as chemo would be. And, you know, I completely understand what it's like. There have been times when I've had time set aside for scrapbooking, and I've come down and I have a beautiful kit and I have wonderful photos, and I even have ideas in my head about what I want to do, but I just sit here and it just feels like I just cannot do it, and I have no good explanation for it. And I think that that's probably the most frustrating part, is not understanding. Like, it feels like you should be able to scrapbook, and it's kind of like, I think I've said it before in a recent video, I'm like, I'm sitting here, why aren't, like, what's, like, sitting doesn't take much more energy than laying, and sitting and scrapbooking doesn't take much more energy than just sitting. So it seems like you should be able to do it. But you really can't, and I think that when you're unable to fully engage in the creative process, it takes a lot of brain power to do that. And when you're unable to do it, and your brain is just an organ in your body, so when your body is taxed, your brain is going to be taxed too, and it's going to be very difficult for you. Can you hear me through my cat? There we go. She was right in front of the microphone. It's going to be very difficult for you to tap into your creative energy when your body is depleted the way that it gets when, I understand it gets when you have chemo. So I think one of the biggest challenges that, my goodness, one of the, jeez, I'm sorry. I'm talking seriously here. Leave me alone. This is so bad. I think that one of the biggest challenges is that it's hard to accept that you can't do it. and or that you can't do it the way that you'd like to do it. And so I think just giving yourself permission to maybe not scrapbook for a while. That's what I had to do. And I wasn't going through anything nearly as significant as chemo, but I just had to accept the fact that even though I was here, I had the time, I had the supplies, I had the photos, I had the ideas, I just couldn't do it. And so that's why there was a bit of a period on my channel where I just didn't have as many videos because I just wasn't producing as much. And I think you have to be kind to yourself and understand that even though it's something you love, and even though you know that you will feel better if you could just do it, sometimes you just can't. And so for me, what I did during that time was I did different things that were still kind of not really related, but I made some cards because I found that just a little bit easier because they were, you know, smaller canvases to work on. I didn't do too many of those though, because I still found that pretty taxing. But what I did was I have a little collection of strawberry shortcake dolls that my friend Stephanie kind of got at a used, like at a, I don't know how she got them, but anyhow, I cleaned them up and I found that that was kind of like a nice outlet. It's not quite as creative. It's not really creative at all, but just, you know, arranging them on my shelf was kind of fun, and just enjoying the fact that they look a little bit nicer and in better condition than they did before, was really nice. I think just trying to revel in the smaller things that you can do might be really helpful. I did things like I made a new display over there for my dolls. I didn't do all of that. I did most of that when I was feeling better, but I kind of planned it out. I did some drawings on a piece of grid paper and set out where I wanted things to go, and did a little bit of planning, and I was very kind of subdued and low key in that period of time. And I think one thing that can really help is actually getting off of social media when you do that, because at first I was very, very stressed about the fact that I wasn't producing very much and that the whole world was kind of going on without me. And I was worried. I was worried that my channel would decline, like that people would stop looking for my videos if I stopped making them. And that might not be a worry that a non-YouTuber might have, but I think also it's like our community is so big and so tight-knit and so big on sharing, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I think it's really it's really easy to compare yourself to what other people are doing. And even if you're not directly comparing yourself and saying, oh, well, Sally's making 12 layouts this month and I didn't make any. Even if you're not really doing that, I think that when you scroll through Instagram and you're just seeing page after page after page of other people's projects, it tends to just make you feel bad. And I don't know if there's anything that you can really do about that other than just get off of social media during a period when you're like that. Because look at this sook. Because I think that's, for me anyways, that seemed to work. So I did take a step away from social media. I stayed connected because I have a group that I run, so I had to kind of come on and say hello, and I like doing that. But I definitely didn't check it as much, and I didn't browse. So I kind of just, I responded when people tagged me, but I didn't really browse social media the way that I normally would. So I hope that helps, and I hope that you feel better soon, and I do send you lots of healthy vibes your way. So that's what I have to say about that one. Okay, so Sharon says, I'd like to know how to add color to a black and white photo, like maybe adding a little pink just to the cheeks of a face. And she wants to do it with product, not on the computer. Whew, thank goodness, because I have no idea how to do it on the computer. I think there are probably apps that you could do that with, or I'm sure that you could do it in Photoshop, but I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I, like you, would much, much rather do it with craft supplies than do it on the computer. She's going to knock over my coffee and it's not going to be pretty. You guys, like, it's just out of frame. She keeps like coming. I have my coffee right here and she keeps coming and like knocking it over and over again. And now she's grabbing my paintbrush. Lila! You guys totally have to see her. Can you see her? Look, I'm going to loosen this so that you can. Look at her over there. What are you doing? What are you doing, girl? What are you doing, you silly kitty? You silly kitty, you can't get enough attention. That's her problem. She just can't get enough attention. All right, let's get back to the questions. Okay. Stop licking me. Stop it. See, this is why I take her out of my room sometimes, because I can't give her all the attention she wants. Holy moly. Okay. So just like you, if I were to do that, I would much, much rather do it with craft supplies. Now, I, many years ago did, not many years ago, but a couple of years back, I did 2 classes for True Scrap. 5 and 6, I think. 5 and 6, I think. Or maybe 4 and 5. I can't remember which True Scraps I have done. But there are classes that I did, and I'm not sure that you can still get them. I know they were on sale for a brief time when Lane Amon was kind of getting out of the True Scrap business side of things. She's doing other business things these days. And so in that class, I talked about how you can ink your photos to, and I did a project that involved like an Andy Warhol kind of like 6 photos. I think it was like a 2x3 grid on a 4x6 piece of paper, maybe on a 5x7 piece of photo paper. And I printed the photo in black and white. I may have pieced together, I can't really even remember how I did it, but I swiped dye ink across it, and I gave some tips in the class about how to do it. Basically, the most important thing is that if, like, when you're swiping dye ink over a photo, this was to get like the whole photo one color. You basically want to start off, like you want to print your photo so that it has more photo paper than photo. So you want to print your photo so that it's in the middle of a larger piece of photo paper. Put your ink pad on off of the photo and then swipe it smoothly across. Like if the photo is right here, like let's say the photo is where my palm is. This is really awkward. The photo is where my palm is. You're going to swipe your ink pad and stop it over here so that you're neither starting or stopping on the photo. That'll give you a nice smooth application of ink across the whole surface. And you also want to make sure that your ink pads are really nicely re-inked, just perfectly re-inked, not too much ink and not too dry either. It's kind of tricky. But you can just play around with like print more photos than you need. And then I did that with like 4 different colors or 6 different colors. And then I cut them all out and pieced them together to look like a little Andy Warhol type of photo collage type of thing. It was a really fun project, and I wish I could give you the link for the class, but I'm pretty sure that it's not available anymore. What I might do is the next time I'm looking through my old albums, I'll try to find that project. I don't even know where it is. I think it went on a scrapbook page, so it must be somewhere in my albums. Next time I find it, I'll pull it out and show it to you guys. That's not really what you asked me about, but that is a time I talked about lots of various ways that you could change a photo using ink and ink on a photo. And I really believe that you might be able to do a similar type of a technique by using, I think I would use, I know that dye ink works, so that's what I'm going to recommend that you use is dye ink. Like I was using Stampin' Up! Ink pads. And when you use Stampin' Up! Ink pads, let me just grab one to show you. So when you use Stampin' Up! Ink pads, you could do this with any ink pad, but Stampin' Up! Ink pads are great for this because they you see they kind of go like this, and see this space right here? It can be a palette for you. It can be a palette for you where before you open your ink pad, you just kind of squeeze, 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 and you're squeezing to get the lid of the ink to touch the ink pad. And now when you open it, there's some ink on the lid. And now what you can do is take a little water brush. If I had a water brush, I could take a little water brush and pick up some of this ink, and you could just, I mean, I wouldn't use purple on the cheeks, but if this was like a really nice pale pink, you could just brush little tiny circles on their cheeks, or you could even paint in the blues of their eyes if that's what you wanted. Or if they had a cute little pink teddy bear, you could color just the pink teddy bear and have the rest of the image remain black and white. I am pretty sure that that would work. Be really light on the water. Try to go heavier on ink than water, because water isn't going to, like, because a photo paper is a glossy surface, it's probably not going to, I mean, what am I trying to say here? I know that the prints that you get from the Epson Picture Mate Charm are waterproof, so you can't ruin them by adding water, but the water is just going to make it messier. It's going to move around more. I think the less water you use, the more control you'll probably have over the process. And I would start with a really, really pale color of ink, and I would just print up some photos and experiment with it. That's what I would do. There might be other mediums besides dye ink that you could use for this. Like, I'm looking right now at my Liquitex ink. The problem with those is that they're so vivid that it might be better off for you to use multiple layers of dye ink than to use something really, really vivid. And I'm not sure about watercolor. I don't know how that would work, but you could try some watercolor as well. But that's how I would do it. I haven't done it before, like, other than I was doing stamping on photos for that class, and I was doing inking over photos, and I can't remember what else I did. The whole class was about how to alter photos. Thanks for your question. And if anybody who's watching has done what she's wanting to do, which is basically colorize a black and white photo, like in a specific way, leave us a comment below and let us all know how you did it and how it turned out, and post pictures if you can, especially if you're watching this over on Facebook. Go ahead and leave a comment. All right, so now Lisa says, how do you like the books you bought recently about mixed media, drawing, lettering, etc.? So I bought those books, and then I bought them in February, I think, and in March I became sick. So I really haven't had a chance to use them as much as I was hoping, but they're the kind of books, when I bought them, I knew that they would be kind of like resource books that would sit in my library. I keep my scrapbooking resources on a little bookshelf over in that direction over there. And I kind of knew that I just wanted to have them on hand. Like, I didn't buy them with the idea of I'm going to go home and read these books and use them right away. So I haven't had a chance to use them very much. I did try a couple of techniques from one of them, and I don't even remember the names of them anymore, but I will probably be revisiting those books as I pull them out. Anytime I use them, I'll probably refer to them and show them to you again, so stay tuned for that. I do think that they're good books, and I have used the drawing book a couple of times, mostly with my kids when we were making posters and just the cards and stuff, and they wanted to draw like a unicorn or something, so we just picked up the book and figured out, like, it goes like step by step which lines you have to draw to do like a little illustrated pony, and so we just did that and then added a horn. Okay, so then Crystal says, how did you scrapbook before you got your own space? I only have a dining table and my supplies are piled up in the corner beside the table. I feel as though I can't get creative because I make a huge mess and my family needs to use the table too for homework, meals, and other life stuff. I did scrapbook in my dining room just like you for the first probably year or two, maybe year, of my kind of like more intense scrapbooking. So, you know, like anybody, I started by scrapbooking just a little bit and then I got more and more into it. And during my first year of actually being into it, where I have like a set of supplies and I had some tools and I was actually kind of doing more than just one specific project, I was in my dining room, and I think on my blog I still have, I might not have those photos anymore. I'm pretty sure that they're posted on my scrapbook.com profile, my old cobwebbed scrapbook.com profile. If you go into my photos there, I do have my old scrap room photos there, unless if they've been removed or gotten like the links broken or something like that. They should all be over there. And I used to have, basically what I did was I went to Michael's and I bought crop supply like cases and suitcases and totes and stuff. Not a whole lot because I didn't have a whole lot of supplies, but that is most of what I bought. And at that point I wasn't going to crop, so I wasn't really buying it for travel as much as I was buying it for storage, because my dining room at that point only had a table. It didn't have any cabinets or anything where I could put stuff. So I had a metal wheelie cart, which was in my scrap room, in my last scrap room tour. It was right behind my computer. It was like a metal kitchen cart, almost like something that you would roll into your kitchen, and it had like 3 shelves on it with wire, like stainless steel wire shelves. So I had one of those, and I filled that up with baskets and stuff, and then I had my black and white crop tote bag that's kind of like a cart, like a luggage, like a rounded piece of luggage that has the handle that telescopes. And I just packed all my stuff into that. And I think that one of the biggest challenges of scrapbooking like that is that you do have to have a big chunk of time to scrapbook, because it takes a while to set everything up, and then you scrapbook, and then it takes a while to clean everything up. And so it's definitely hard. I do feel for you. I do know how it feels to have to scrapbook in like that. And it's really difficult to do anything like a big project, because packing up is a bit of a pain. If there's any way that you can have like a holding area, you might find that it helps. So I think I've mentioned before that I have one of these. I have actually 3 of these. You see them sometimes. One of them has a piece of parchment paper attached to it, and I put it on my work surface, stick up the parchment paper to mask off all the stuff that's back there behind my camera right now, and then I do my mist or splattering or anything messy. I also have one like this that's just a floater, and I have another one that's the exact same size. These are Tri-Art palettes. And I get them at Desserts, but I think that after I shared them, some other people found them other places. I keep one of these as kind of like a place where I can keep my art journal stuff that's in progress. And so maybe having something like this, and then a spot that you could just like leave some supplies, like this is big enough that you could have like a 12 by 12 piece of paper. Like, it's white on white, so I know that's hard for you to see, but you could have like a 12 by 12 piece of paper and a couple of embellishments and some stuff that you're, in the process of working with. And then you can just pick the whole thing up, move it, and maybe like put it on top of your dining room hutch. Or even, I mean, if you don't have cats, I guess you could even put it underneath of your hutch, if there's like a little space on between the floor and where the legs are or something like that. That it might get dusty there, so that might not be the best idea. With my art journal one, I keep this. I actually have like craft paper that goes underneath of it, and then I just pull and wrap up the craft paper, and it kind of holds everything together, and then I just put it elsewhere. I put it over there in my room. So, and if you've watched my scrap room videos, you would have seen that, and I think you have, Crystal, because I think I've seen some comments from you on those. So I hope that that's helpful. That's kind of my only idea for scrapping in like a family area, in a multi-purpose area, is to have some way to have a work in progress that you can just move someplace out of the way and keep it mostly together. You might find that helpful. So now Diane, she's a long comment here. I belong to Click Kits and Hip Kit Club. I also have a lot of very painful autoimmune diseases, which don't allow me to get upstairs to my craft room sometimes for months, so I have lots of kits piled up. I'm one of those people that can't stand to mix Play-Doh colors, so I keep each kit in its box. I hear ya, I used to do that too. As you can imagine, I've got quite the stack. I'd like to keep the kits together, but in a more visible and organized way that uses less space. I do have a few Iris containers I use, but they're still bulky and the inserts are costly. And so some other people have made some suggestions. Shay keeps her kits in a wardrobe that... Okay, so that sounds really interesting. She keeps, okay, so I'm just going to read it. Can I make a suggestion? I keep my kits in a wardrobe as you can't get upstairs, maybe a clothes hanging rack. I store my kits in 12 by 12 plastic bags and hang with pant skirt hangers. I label where the kit comes from and what month. The kits I love end up there. The kits I am not so in love with go into my stash. Okay, so that is a great idea. That's a wonderful idea. And that is what I was going to suggest is, one more thing to put away now. So what I was going to suggest, and what I've been doing lately, I think I showed in my part 1 video that I keep my kits in that, all of my current product in that green wire bag. I'm pointing to it and you can't see it. The green wire basket, not bag, right down there. Down there. So that is how I do it. And I put my kits right back into the plastic bags that they come in. So, and I label the month. So this is the bag for the April hip kit. And so that is something that you can do. When I belonged to the Scarlet Line Kit Club, when I was early in my scrapbooking time, I had a stack of Scarlet Line boxes that were as tall as I was. And I'm not very tall, so that's not that impressive, but it kind of is. Because I would open up a box and do a layout, and then I'd put it all back in the box, and then I'd get a new kit. So I was just kind of picking through them very, very, very slowly. I was a new scrapbooker, so it took me a long, long time to do just one page. And so the kits just kept coming and coming. And even though I was scrapbooking on a regular basis, I really wasn't having much output. And so I know that those kit boxes can get very piled up very quickly. So hanging these somewhere would be an awesome idea, but also what I've sometimes done with these kits in these bags is I just slide them into, like right here. I think you can see that. Oh, you can't. I'll move my camera so that you can. So this right here, for example, is a kit that I started to use and didn't finish. It's a fall themed kit. I know I'll do another fall page, and so this is the fall kit from Scrapbooking Cards Today from last year. And so I just put it in the bag that it came in. So in the 12 by 12 box, it came in this bag, and I just slid it into one of the cubes here. And I've done that with other kits before too. Whenever I have a kit that I don't want to de-kit at the end of the month, I just do that with it. So there are 2 ideas for you anyways. And if anybody else has any ideas for, look, you saw it. You saw it. That's my Spider-Man kitty. She wants out. I better let her out. So if you have any ideas for Diane about how she can store her kits, please leave a comment below and give us all some advice on that. Have you ever scrapped with just ordinary paper without being in a kit club? Have you ever hated a layout and left it as is and still put it in an album? Yes and yes to both of those. Yes, I sometimes scrap outside of a kit club, and I usually say I'm scrapbooking with my stash today when I do that. I haven't done that lately, but in the past I've done it about maybe once a month, or certainly whenever I do the Doctors Are In series. That's usually with my stash, and that's a series where Irit, Landgraf, and myself answer scrapbookers kind of questions about it. Basically, the purpose of it is to get people scrapbooking and to kind of get over their scrappy hurdles and get on with the process of actually creating pages. And so so when we do that, I always scrapbook from my stash. And yeah, so I do scrapbook from my stash. And then the second question is, have I ever hated a layout and left it as it is and still put it in an album? The Wrinkly Fingers layout that I made several years ago now is the one that stands out in my mind as being a page that I really, really did not like at the time. And I think I've referred to it a couple of times, which is why it's still in my mind. I don't normally obsess and perseverate on a layout that I don't like, but people have asked me this question and I've used it as an example before. I'll try to remember to get the Flickr page for that one and put it up so that you can see it. so that's a page that I made, and I really didn't like it at the time. I decided to just leave it, and I put it in my album. And now when I look at it, I don't see what the big deal is. Like, it was fine. I don't dislike it now, but I really, really disliked it at the time. So I think that that's a good example of like, that's a good reason to go ahead and just leave it in your scrapbook, at least for a little while, and see if you change your mind about it after some time has passed. Sometimes you might just be so frustrated with the process, and maybe it didn't go exactly as you planned. And you know how we always notice our own mistakes more than other people would notice them. And then after some time passes, you go back and you look at it and you're kind of like, oh, it looks fine. And you don't have that kind of negativity attached to it that more came from the process of making it than came from the actual outcome and the page itself. So I guess that's one way to decide whether you want to redo a layout. I think that, this question has come up a lot, and people, people say, go ahead and change it. And people say, no, don't change it. I think you got to do what works for you. So if you really want to change it, just go ahead and change it. It's okay. There's no right or wrong answers to these questions. And so, but if you kind of feel like, okay, it's done, I don't really care if I don't like it, then just put it in your book. That's usually the way I am. I don't really care if I don't like it, because I have lots and lots of scrapbooks. And as you turn the pages, there's some nice ones in there, and there's some mediocre ones in there. And then there's some ones that I'm kind of like, ugh, don't really like that one. And that's okay. Like, that's just, it still tells a story. It still gets that picture off of my camera roll and into an album where other people can enjoy it. And so that's kind of all that really matters. But I have done that. Yes, I have hated a layout, and I have put it in the album. I haven't changed one altogether yet, but I have really changed it at the last minute. Like, in the same scrapbooking session, I've torn things apart and started over again. And so yes, I do that too. Then Britty says, how do you fit it all in? I don't. That's why this video is like a week late and there's 74 comments on it now. You're so scrap productive. You have a professional job and kids and other hobbies, and presumably a house that has been cleaned and tidied somewhat recently. Okay, don't jump to conclusions there. You film and edit and voiceover. Where do you find the time? Do you never sleep? Oh, I sleep. Don't worry about that. I definitely sleep. Love your vibes and all your creative inspiration. Thanks so much. I watch your channel just to relax most of the time, and I really cherish them. Oh, that's so sweet. I love comments like these are the kinds of comments that really help me keep going when I'm really busy and don't have so much time. Yeah, so I think that this is a lot of so I'll read here what I wrote too, just so that I don't forget to say it. I wouldn't be so sure about the house being cleaned and tidied somewhat recently. The key is to compartmentalize your time and then use it as you planned. I'm not always successful at doing that, but when I can get it together, it tends to work. Social media creep is a real wolf in sheep's clothing when it comes to efficiency. I'll say more about this in the video. I actually typed all day more about this in the video, so yeah. Okay, so I'm glad I wrote that because I might have forgotten to say that. So yeah, I think you need to, everybody struggles with finding enough time to do everything that they need to do, or maybe not everybody, but lots and lots of people have this struggle. I think that the key is to divide up your time and prioritize the things that are the top priority and put those, like, I think about my week as being like a planner. I have like a visual planner inside of my head of my week. And I also have a physical planner, and I also have one on my devices, right? And so I divide my week up and I plop in the things that I have to do, like work and childcare and family obligations and appointments and all those sorts of things. Then with the time that and sleep and eating and meal prep and exercise should be plopped in there somewhere too. Then with the time that I have left, I decide what I'm going to use it for. And so scrapbooking is high in that priority list of whatever's left over. Scrapbooking is probably the highest of my second tier of priorities. And so I will kind of put that in. And for me, I've had the I guess, the luxury of being able to set my own schedule at work so that I work 2 really long days at work so that I have 2 days off in the week. So I don't work on Mondays and I don't work on Thursdays. And so usually I get some scrapbooking done on one of those 2 days or both of them. And then other things that are important get done around that on those 2 days. Then my weekends end up being just family stuff. And if I can get up early on, like before my family on Saturday or Sunday, then I'll also do scrapbooking at those times as well. So the key is to not set that out, but to follow it. I mean, setting it out is important too, but I think that where I run into the most trouble is in following it, because I'll have things, and the thing is that if I have things planned out and I have to stop and get cat food on the way home from this place, and then I don't do it because I'm too tired, or I think, ugh, I'll do it later, or I forget, then those tasks start impeding on the time that I have set out to scrapbook, because now Monday's here, I didn't get cat food on Sunday, and so now I have to get up and go travel to the store, come back, and then like some of my day is missing, right? So being efficient in your non-scrapbooking time really does help you to protect your scrapbooking time, because like the cats have to eat, and so if they didn't have food in their dishes, I wouldn't be doing this right now. So that's really important. I'm not an expert at doing this. I am an expert at telling people how to do it, but we're all human, and I drop the ball on this all the freaking time. I do have ADHD, and so I have a really difficult time keeping myself organized. This room is, I know people say, what? You have ADHD? How can you like have that room? Because people have seen my room when it's all tidy and I do the little tour. Yes, everything has its place in this room, but the whole rest of my house is complete chaos. Things don't have their homes. There are mail piled up. There's stuff. I only have the capacity to keep organized in a few ways at once. and when things start to unravel, when I tighten things up here, something else unravels someplace else. That's just the way my life is. And so like our house isn't like horrible, like a hoarder's house or anything like that, but it's definitely lived in, messy, dusty most of the time. And there are piles, like there's definitely piles in my house, and you have to just kind of be okay with your own self and recognize your own limitations for that kind of thing. Now, somebody who I really look up to, who seems to be really, really good at this idea of compartmentalizing their time and then following through, which is the most important part, is the and then following through part, is Karen Grunberg. Is that her name? Karen Grunberg? Eakins? Karen, she might have 2 last names. Anyhow, that person that I'm talking about, she used to be on the paper clipping roundtable as a panelist. I unfortunately never got to meet her. That was kind of my dream. Well, I would have loved, I've had a chance to be on the paper clipping roundtable with some pretty amazing people like Allie Edwards and Stacy Julian, and it was an honor to be able to have conversations with those people, meaningful conversations about the hobby and the industry. It was really, really awesome. One person I really, really wish I could have had a chance to interact with is Karen Grunberg. I love her. She is amazing. I love her work. I love her scrapbooking. I love her blog. I haven't checked her out lately. I don't even know if she's doing stuff, but what I really, really admire and respect about Karen is her ability to, at least when she talks about it. I mean, check out if there are old episodes of Paper Clipping Roundtable that she's in, definitely go listen to them because she's amazing. She has, her life runs like a tightly run ship. Like she gets up and exercises and she sets goals for herself and she follows it through and she seems to have a process, and it's probably not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I don't mean to put her on a pedestal and say, oh, she's awesome at everything. She probably isn't, but she definitely has it together in a way that I definitely don't. But not, she's not like snobby about it or makes it seem like it's easier than it really is, but she's very logical and practical about it. And it really does come down to prioritizing and making decisions about what you think is important. And if it's that important to you, you will make it happen. And I really appreciate that. And I just wish that I could just like figure out how I could be more like that. So yeah, I don't know if I completely answered your question, but yeah, it's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. I'm sure even Karen would say the same thing, that she's not perfect at it either. And we all just have to do the best that we can do with the time that we have and try to get some scrapping done and try to enjoy the process. Alrighty. Oh yes, and then I also talked about social media creep. And this is the way that social media, this is what I call, I don't know if it's a term outside of my life, but I call it social media creep. And it's how like social media just has this way of reaching its little evil fingers into everything that we do. And you know, like every device that we have, I have a watch now that keeps on like telling me when Facebook does something, and I'm, you know, constantly being barraged with information from social media. And it's so easy. It's such a time sucker to just be like, oh, I just woke up. I'm going to pick up my phone and just scan Facebook and see what's new on there. And then like half an hour goes by and I'm like, oh, I could have been exercising then. And I've been like laying in my stupid bed looking at stupid Facebook when, you know, like that's not time that my body is using to rest, and there's no restorative sleep happening at that time. And resting after you've already slept has no physical benefits, no psychological benefits. When you wake up, you should just wake up. I know this, but yet I lay there and look at stupid Facebook. So social media, even if you're aware of it and even if you're trying really hard to not have it creep into your life, it has a way of spreading out. It's like those weeds in your garden that just kind of keep growing and growing, and then you come out one day and it's all weeds. So we have to work hard to contain it and like put boundaries on it and say, so one thing that you can do is you can turn off your notifications. You can set yourself up so that you've got times of the day when you're going to access Facebook and then times of the day when you're not. Those blackout periods are really important. And for me, I need to make the morning my blackout period, because otherwise it does become something that just isn't very helpful. That's not something that I need more of in my mornings. I need to be very mindful of what I'm spending my time on. I only have a certain amount of time in the morning, and I have to do a whole bunch of stuff in that time. And Facebook is really not a priority at that point. So it's just a matter of it's easy to say that now because it's, you know, 9:27 and I'm already up and about and the kids are off to school. But what's really hard is when it's 6:30 in the morning and your alarm just went off and you look over and the phone is sitting there, and your options are to lay here for a little bit longer and look at Facebook, or to get up and go downstairs and exercise on the daily burn. That's a tough decision to make. But in that moment, you have to think, what are my priorities? Which one of these things will get me more of what I want in my life? Which of these things will move me more towards my goals for the day or for my life? And move me towards, again, things like, you know, if I get up at 6:30 and exercise, then if it is a Monday or a Thursday, I can feel better about being down here scrapbooking or talking to you guys, as opposed to feeling like, okay, so it's 9, the kids are on the bus, now should I exercise or should I do this, right? And so if I'd gotten up and exercised, that wouldn't be an issue for me. I'm sorry to be preachy. I wish I could learn that myself. I wish I could like just make it happen, you know. It'd be so nice if you could just have an idea and say, okay, I'm just going to do that from now on. But it's really hard. That self-control is very hard. So then Jody asks, what kind of tape do you use in your ATG? I see people lift things off their page after using it. What? I tear the heck out of things when I try to do that. this is what I'm using. And she's using the Scotch ATG refill that you see right there. That's what I usually use. However, recently I've switched to the No Name brand, and I'm going to speak about that in the scrap chat, but it could be related to your humidity levels, whether you've burnished it, and how long it's been before you decide to pull it up. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what the difference is. I haven't done a systematic comparison of the name brand versus the no name. If you guys are interested in me maybe doing that, let me know in the comments below, because I do have lots of the no name, and I have lots of the no name, and I still have many of the brand names. So I could do a comparison. That would be no problemo. And so I think that, you know, based on my experience, which hasn't been systematic, but I think based on my experience that it probably depends upon, it could depend upon the humidity levels of where you live. Now, I live in a pretty humid place and I do scrapbook in the basement. I run a dehumidifier though, so I think that my area is pretty climate controlled. I don't know if humidity would make it more sticky or less sticky. I'm not sure. But that could be a part of it. The second is that with ATG, and I know this to be true, is that with ATG, after you stick your paper onto the surface, if you burnish it, which means just kind of like pressing down on it, it activates the bond, and then the ATG is much, much stickier. And so if I pull it up after I burnish it, yeah, I'll probably tear it too. So usually when I'm not sure about things, I don't burnish. I just place them down so that they won't move, but I'm not going to actually like press it really hard until I know that that's where I want it to be. Also, I think that the longer it's on the page, the more of a chance it has for the bond to actually activate and hold the two pieces of paper together. So it could also depend upon how long it's been since you've put it down and then when you're deciding to pull it up. But I'm not entirely sure. But I'm happy to do a comparison, so maybe I'll put that on my list of things to do anyway. So Carmen Marshall wants to know about watercolors. She bought the HitMake color kit and wondering if she should use a certain type of paintbrush, different sizes. Is this something you can add to your huge list of Q&A? And so I say I'm happy to talk about watercolors in ScrapChat. I also have footage. So I have footage on my computer from early March, kind of February time, when I did a whole lot of watercoloring. I took Irit Landgraf's class called Watercolor Workbook. Awesome class. Awesome class. I really, really loved it. I love that it gave me an opportunity to play with watercolor in a way that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. And the fact that you're not trying to do a specific thing, she gives you lots of options of making color swatches and all sorts of things like that. It kind of frees you up to just play with the medium and see what it does, as opposed to I'm trying to make a layout or I'm trying to make a background or something like that, right? So I really, really loved that class. It's definitely worth the money. So what was I talking about? Yeah, so I have a bunch of footage of me doing some things from that class, also me showing some different watercolor paints that I have and what the differences are between them. It's all on my computer, and I just got sick and wasn't able to spend as much time down here editing. And I also have a video on Traveler's Notebooks that I got from, anyhow, I have like a lot of videos that I need to share with you guys. So bear with me, it's coming. I will have separate videos about watercolor. I also noticed that Irit came on and gave some tips about brushes. She says, thanks for the shout out. I use my watercolor brush only for watercolor. I find round brushes to be the most versatile, but it's interesting to try different shapes. I use mostly number 10 brush. Sizes are unfortunately not universal and change from brand to brand, and 4 for smaller details. I have tons of videos using watercolors, and I usually write the supplies, including brushes, in the description box. I hope that helps. So I'm going to leave just a link to Irit's channel because she has so much available on her channel about watercolor that I think it's probably more efficient for me to just refer you to her. And just know that if you're looking for watercolor from me, it'll be coming soon. So, but Irit knows a lot more about watercolor than I do. So, all right. So Annie Collins says, what's your least favorite embellishment and why? And what is your most favorite embellishment and why? This is a really good one. I think my least favorite embellishment is probably Brad's because they take more work to put them on than what I'd like to do. They don't take that much work, but and also you're committed once you put a Brad on, you know, like you poke a hole in the page, and then if you decide, hey, I want to move that Brad someplace else, you've got this hole to deal with. And so that's definitely, like, easily my least favorite embellishment. My most favorite embellishment is probably the rubber pieces that are out these days. They're just so vivid. I love the texture. I love the detail. I think they're really cute. I'm looking for some to show you. I'm failing to find some to show you, but anyhow, you know what rubber pieces look like. They're awesome. They're multicolored. They're detailed. They're layered and textured, and they're awesome. The other thing I really love is acrylic pieces. I can get my hand on some of those. So these are some acrylic pieces from Hip Kits and so on. These little guys right here, they're kind of awesome. I love them. They're so pretty. Those are my most favorite. What are yours? I'm interested in hearing what your favorite and least favorite embellishments are. Okay. Oh my goodness, I might be almost done. Helen says, are you an Elvis fan? I'm fully expecting this question to get its own video. I'm not exactly an Elvis fan. So then we have a bit of a conversation about Elvis and the Beatles, because I am a big Beatles fan. In fact, I have a story about how big of a Beatles fan I am. Hang on. You guys recognize this, right? So this, I do have a record player now. So this is the Beatles Abbey Road album, which is probably my very favorite. Well, it's tied with the White Album for my very favorite Beatles album. I love, love, love this album. It's just an experience, like the way that it's strewn together. Like, you got to sit down. If you like the Beatles, you have to not listen to individual I mean, you know, go ahead, listen to individual songs if you want. But I think that one thing that has been lost since we've stopped listening to records and have digital music, and we can literally say, I want to listen to this song, and then this other song by somebody else, and then this other song. The problem with that is that artists sometimes design albums to be a complete musical experience, and this is one of them. And so you really need to just sit down and listen to this from beginning to end. And if you're a Beatles fan, it will change the way that you listen to music. If you don't listen to albums, you need to listen to albums because they're awesome. So, especially older albums that were made to be albums, right? So maybe artists these days don't do that, don't spend as much time crafting an album as they used to, but I have to say that I love listening to albums. Anyhow, am I Beatles or am I an Elvis fan? I need to stay on topic. Okay, so I wanted to tell you this story about the Beatles. So we are huge Beatles fans, both Scott and I. So anyhow, this is that kind of iconic album cover with them crossing Abbey Road there with the zebra crossing. And so when my husband and I were building our new house, we knew what subdivision we wanted to live in, but we weren't sure which lot. We were among the last to buy a lot in this neighborhood. Many of our friends lived here, and we spent a lot of time in this neighborhood just hanging out with our friends. So we were familiar with it. We knew the schools. We knew we wanted to live in this neighborhood, but there were maybe 10 lots to choose from. It's a huge neighborhood with like 700 homes. So we were among the last to buy a lot in this neighborhood. And there were only a few options in like various different spread out places in the neighborhood on different streets. And one of the lots was available on the street called Abbey Road. All of the streets in my neighborhood are named after British places or things. So we've got a Penny Lane, we have Buckingham, we have Windsor, we have Abbey Road, we have Piccadilly. Like, there's just all the streets have that kind of a theme to them. So I mean, we like this lot, but I can't lie. I wouldn't be lying if I said that the name had something to do with us choosing this lot. There were three lots that we could have built our house on because we knew what house plan we wanted. There were three different lots we had to choose from, and the name of the street actually is the thing that determined which lot we bought, which is a little silly, but I love being able to say that I live on Abbey Road. And I actually did a layout about, it's called The Other Abbey Road, and I scrapbook, it was like not a double page, but it was like 2 pages. One of them was about my love of the Beatles, and then the other one was about this story I'm about to tell you. And it's called The Other Abbey Road. And so when we first moved into the house, I went to like an online website, and I bought a poster version of this, like a big one for my wall. And we decided, because we listened to this album the whole time that we were building the house, like we'd come out and visit and see the progress on the construction every evening. That was kind of like our hobby, was going to visit the house and seeing what's up next and checking to make sure that everything was done the way we wanted it to be done. And so we would always listen to the Abbey Road CD in the car on the way to and from. And so it kind of became the soundtrack of our lives for that period of time. Livy was a preschooler and Sophie was a baby, and I was off on mat leave for part of that time, and Scott was off on parental leave for part of that time. And so that when I think about that time of my life, that's the music that I think about. And so we ordered this poster online, and it came in the mail, and I went to Michael's using one of those 60% off coupons to get it framed. I went to Michael's, and she's like, "Oh, I love this album," and it says Abbey Road right on it, right? And so the girl, she's just like really young, and she's taking my name and information and credit card number. I don't know what she had to take, but one of the things that she had to write down was my mailing address. So I said, blah blah blah, Abbey Road, and she kind of like stopped writing and looked at me and said, "For real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for real." I was like just gleeful that she even noticed, right? So anyhow, that's my little story about Abbey Road. Oh, yeah, you probably won't see me do any Elvis pages because I'm just not a big enough fan, but you probably will see me do a page maybe about my blue suede shoes, because I do have a pair, as I talked about in the thread there. And all of these questions, if you're watching this on YouTube and aren't part of our Facebook group, all of these questions came in on my Facebook group. It's called MercyTiara's 27-Day Challenge. But don't let the name fool you. We do a lot of chatting, and there's lots of questions asked, and we share our projects and layouts and pages, and there's lots of conversation. And there are other challenges, especially during the summer months. Mo, who is Moira O'Reilly, who you guys probably know because she's really wonderful scrapbooker and very present online. She and I run the site together, and she has a lot of challenges and fun things in store for the group for the summer that are in addition to the 27-day challenge. So make sure that you join our group if you haven't already, because it really is a lot of fun. And I love that you guys have all supported me and joined the group, and that you're all enjoying it and participating over there, because I find that it's a really great way for me to connect with you guys. And that was the reason I opened that group, was to feel more connected. Like I felt like I wasn't close to my viewers, and like, so anyhow, Facebook has really helped with that. So thank you guys so much for playing along with me. Then some people are asking when the ScrapChat will be posted, because so much time went by. This video is getting pretty long at this point, so there are just a few more questions left, so I'm going to come back on a third part and answer the last couple of questions another day. So thanks so much for watching, and have a really great scrappy week.